Well, welcome everyone. And this is Scott Engler here with Association for Talent Development here in Houston. And I have one of our speakers for the upcoming conference, who's actually been a member on and off, I've learned, for almost 30 years now. We have Manuel Miranda, who is the CEO of Ascendi Learning and managing principal of ChangeBridge. And so Manuel and I had a really good opportunity to talk a little bit beforehand, where I've gotten to learn a lot about his background and just a wealth of information this guy has. So I'm eager to ask him even more questions, and eager for you guys that are going to be listening to what he has to say. So yeah, I guess we'll just jump into it. I know you're going to be speaking more on ChangeBridge, and yes. I just want listeners to kind of hear maybe some of the things that you shared with me about. Maybe you could talk about some of the tiers or whatever you'd want to mention that you're going to be presenting on here on the 28th, right? Of this month.
The 28th at 2 o'clock. Be there.
2 o'clock.
So the essence of what I'm going to present, it probably won't be far-fetched from the ideas, but it's something that I think needs to be, brought to the forefront, which is how organizational cultures affects change initiatives, right? We look at organizational cultures to help us determine whether something's going to succeed. Not only as an initiative of change, but from any other means. Digital transformations, mergers and acquisitions. Culture is the essence of how the level of trust that an organization has, the shared values that they have across the whole organization. We're looking at it from a perspective not only from the executive level, right, which is one of the tiers that we try to address. We also look at it from an operational level, which is your general managers, team leads, that middle management, and then we have the third tier, which we'll call the transactional, which are the employees. And we ask the whole organization, what do they think? How do they feel? Because change is an action that happens at an individual level. The amount of trust that an individual has within an organization is going to determine how well a change initiative succeeds.
Yeah, and let me jump in there with you, because what was interesting to me that you touched on, and I've learned in my own professional experience and working with clients at bigger companies, is that you mentioned this even on your bullet points for your presentation, is checking the boxes of benefits and you can work from home and that's not what you're talking about with great culture. And I would completely agree. And I think, in my opinion, like that's one of the things that I think I'm going to love to hear you speak about, because I've been saying this for years. I'm like, these companies, I don't think should be in the top 100. They just know which boxes to check to be in that. And so I think, what you were saying just really quick about, no, it's about the trust. And we talked about the toxicity, and you could have all the boxes checked, but if you don't have that trust and feeling of comfort, and you're still going to respond and react in really negative ways that are not going to be good with the company.
Yeah. So one of the points that I would talk about is exactly that, is the misconception of a workplace benefit or a workplace perk, and people assume that that's an indication of culture, and it's no. That's just a benefit. They're nice. They makes the experience of being at work great. Here lately, this whole thing about remote work has been going on for quite a few years before this current environment that we're in was being promoted quite a bit, right? Traffic, means to an end for people who can do the job but not necessarily come into the office every single day. So people were doing that. Telecommuting, right? Been going on for quite a while, but That being said, it's a perk. Not necessarily mean that's part
Right.
of the culture.
Well, and to your point, Manny, I won't get too into this, but I worked for one of these companies, and they had, a masseuse that came maybe every Friday, every other Friday. They had a gym. They had a pool table. I mean, the facility itself was immaculate. They checked all the boxes. Here was the problem: you can never use that because they had you on such restrictions. And I swear, it actually felt like it almost felt like hell. I'm going to be very like whatever about it because they had all these things and you could never use it.
Yeah.
I can't explain it other than that. And I swear at the end of a workday, you did not want to stay and try to use that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Well, here's the thing. If there was a good culture where there's trust and all that, those perks are even more heightened because you feel like, okay, I used the perk, whatever, if it was applicable or not, right? You would use them and you won't feel misplaced. If you're going into an organization where the culture is, like you said, very toxic, I'm the same way. My first intention is, look, I'm done with my job. I'm going home. I'm done. I'm out of here. It doesn't matter how well the coffee station is,
right?
Or if they have the best gym on site. If I don't feel like I need to be there anymore, I won't. I'm going home. Whether if I have a family or not, or whatever the case may be, I won't. Right. I wouldn't do that. And that's part of what we're looking at. That level of trust that is instilled in a good organizational culture across the whole culture, across all the teams. That is what makes an initiative of change become easier for the individuals, because now that trust is allows them to say, oh, okay, so we're going to go through this. Okay, well, you know what? I trust this organization. I know what's going on. They tell me, they're transparent. They do all of that. So shifting into that desire to change becomes a hell of a lot easier,
right,
when the organizational culture is good and there's trust there. If it's not, it does not matter how quotation mark easy the change is. If I don't trust you, it's not going to happen. And it's simple as that. I mean, and again, but that's all perspective now too, because there will be people in that organization that love being there. Okay.
Right. Well, let me ask you a quick question, or maybe it's not quick, but I also don't want to give away too much of what you're going to be speaking on. But my curious mind, you said there's three tiers. There's the executives, there's the operational, and the transactional, correct?
Right.
Have you found any commonalities of like trust or not trust, like within the tiers? Like, do you know what does that question make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
No, they all trust us, and then like the third tier is like we don't trust them at all. Like, is there a commonality that you guys see when you look at?
Well, there's normally it. So what we have tended to have seen is that, and it all goes back to the transparency and the communication within the organization. The most common thing we see is that the misunderstanding of a message. Remember the old game that of people relaying messages to each other, and then once they realize when they get to the end, the message is completely different than what it started out with.
I think it's called telephone, right?
Telephone. The game of telephone. Yeah, to go through that process. Well, that happens in organizations as well, and it happens. And the more it goes through that process, the more dilute or convoluted that message can become. If it's not clear initially and it's not repeatable. And so at times there's almost I don't want to say a misconception, but a certain belief that, well, no, everything is fine. Well, no, it's fine for you, but the person at the end of the message, that's not what they got. Even though what what is said is, most times, how leadership goes, that's how the organization goes, right? You hear that quite a bit. But at times even though leadership had the right intention, it is the right message to say, but it could get convoluted on the way down. And all of a sudden now you have a transactional group that just doesn't understand. It's like, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem right. And then, somehow in the middle, it got changed because maybe somebody else misunderstood, or they didn't pay attention completely to the message. That is what we've seen, I guess, the majority of the time. But that is, that also involves, further disciplines, coaching, getting into programs that how to communicate and all that kind of stuff. It's all necessary. What we do is that when we do an organizational cultural assessment, we're trying to find out if that is occurring, right? We're looking at where are those common threads of missteps or of where things are working. Right. So the organizational assessment that we promote into tries to help us do that. We love to use the analogy. It's our cultural assessment is to a change practitioner as lab work and vital readings are to a doctor.
I like that.
Right? The doctor just doesn't come in and goes, okay, yeah, here, take this medication, take an aspirin and call me in the morning.
Right.
Yeah. They don't, it was said jokingly, but that's not what we do. They go in and they go, okay, so you have pain, right? Okay, well, let's look at that. And obviously they'll do a series of blood work and then do things because they need to figure, okay, so what's going on? The pain is the visible part, but what is the real cause of it? And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at organizational assessment. Is that we're looking at from a change perspective. We look at a series of elements within an organization that we call change elements,
right?
That have a series of success factors associated with it, and we determine, okay, so what is working, what is not working, what is the level of trust of that change element within those three tiers, and that's what we do.
Yeah, that's great. I've loved learning from you, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more. And I guess I have one quick question that I kind of want you to plug in whatever you want. But, if I'm a business owner, I'm an executive, or I manage a lot of people, whatever, project manager. I want to learn the Manny way or this way, and what these tools or assessments do. Like, what could I expect to hear about the trust and the values? Like, what can I expect to get from listening to you speak that maybe I can apply moving forward?
So what the expectation is that, we will hopefully shed a light and give you an indication of what your organization is thinking. What's its heartbeat? What is it doing? What does it think about you? And not just only hearing what you think about what the organization is.
Right.
There's different perspectives. Seeing from the top down is a complete view than looking at it from the bottom up. So that is what we bring. And sometimes it's enlightening. Sometimes it's disturbing. Sometimes it's raising an awareness of oh wow, I didn't know that's what was going on. Okay, right.
And that's part of being human, because
that's part of being human. Yes,
because you don't work for the company that you run.
Yes, and as change practitioners, most
thing in the world.
Yeah, so for change practitioners, where a good majority are individual consultants, they're getting brought in to do projects, transformation, things like that. Even though organizations are starting to shift and have their own teams of change practitioners within the organization, right? There's more companies that are doing that, but still the good majority are coming in as an outside consultant.
Right.
So, we don't have the pulse of what is going on. We know that we're coming in because there is a transformation occurring for whatever it may be. Digital, merger and acquisition, right? Product launch, whatever the case may be. but since we're not there, we haven't been there since the beginning. We don't know what's going on, and what are the personalities? What are the values? What is the level of trust that's there? So to be able to do a cultural assessment, it helps us catch up to understand. Oh, okay, so now I see how the organization is. It allows me to then better prepare myself as a change practitioner to then produce change, not just manage it, but produce it.
Yeah, and you bring a good point up too, because recently I myself was with a company, and reputable one at that, and they were one of the most reputable at what they did in the country, as far as like from a franchise standpoint. And then COVID happened, and so they're like, how are we going to do all these things in a different way? And it just threw them for such a loop, right? Because they were so used to being successful in this one way, and it's like, well, I put together something. I was like, look, let me help you guys navigate this change, because they had veterans 20, 30 years that just,
they couldn't do it.
They weren't going to adjust. You could already tell who the people that were, who the people that weren't, people that were more set in their ways that weren't, working relationships between the GM and the different managers and their own issues. And it's like, look, like, to your point, like, we don't know what's going on, but also they don't know what's going on because they've been in the thick of it for so long too.
Right. And at times you have organizations that'll call themselves, well, we're very resilient, we're very agile. Well, there's a lot of organizations that were calling themselves that before all of this, right? And some have struggled through this because then they realize, no, you know what? No, we're not agile. We're not resilient because of what just happened,
right?
Which is it's the epitome of what when people use those terms and they publish it and they put it out there. It sounds nice, but is it true? Well, if you know your organization, its culture, then the ones that do know it can say it with more confidence than the ones that don't. You can say I'm agile, and you can say it all you want. Doesn't mean that you are, right?
And you have multiple facets because we're not.
Oh yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what what this process is for. That is to help raise that awareness. For some it could be, like I said, for some it could be very disturbing. It could be shocking. For others, it could be, well, okay, you know what? Yeah, I had, there's a little misunderstanding there. I didn't realize that part. Okay, well, not necessarily, not to say there's no harm, no foul, but now you understand, okay, there's things to work on. And most organizations will have some good processes when it comes to it. Okay, good steps, good portions of from those elements that we're going to talk about that work. But then there's others that don't. And it'll be very evident about it.
And I'm sorry to interject, Manny, but as far as time, we only got a couple minutes left.
Sure.
Is there anything you'd want to share that you haven't, just for people listening, about why you think they should come here yet?
Well, I'm hoping they can come here is because not only will I, deliver a message that, even though it sounds like common sense, a light needs to be shed on it, right? Because we work in humans, work with people, so it's a human-centric type of approach and everything. But I'm also going to be, and I'm not going to spoil it now. I am going to talk about an organization that does have excellent culture and how they succeeded because of that culture and a big transition that they had to go through, and it's part of the presentation. And I'm going to leave that little teaser there just for now. Because people will say, well, yeah, sure, it does, it does happen. Well, yeah, but I'm going to talk about an organization that was very successful for a long time, and also they had to go through it. And like many organizations that are out there, for a good majority of people, not many follow that organization, or may not have been aware that happened to them.
Of course, yeah. Well, it's like a marriage, right? It's like it's constantly changing, evolving, and
Yep.
I love that you're going to shed a positive example, because I try to be the same way. It's like, it's one thing to hear about this is what is wrong and this is what you need to do, but like, please give me some hope by showing me like
Yes.
companies that are doing it. And I'm working on something similar that's I'm not going to get into right now, but having those things to see, it's like, hey, they struggle too, but here's how they responded differently, or here's what they did.
Here's what they did.
So,
Yeah. And it will be about that. It's going to be about how their culture allowed them to make that shift, to make that change, and they were successful at the end. They were successful at the end, and they continued on. It was like nothing skipped a beat.
You just got me like 10 times more excited, personally.
Yeah, then that's what we're talking about.
And so once again, in the meantime, is there any way that anywhere you'd like people listening where they could maybe just learn a little bit more about you, maybe your LinkedIn or somewhere where you might be talking a little bit, where they could get information beforehand?
Yeah, sure. They can follow and look for information about this process and what we do. They can go to www.changebridge.co, which is the website for us. There's some blog articles or some resource material there that talks about cultural assessment and what we what we're doing. There's also a LinkedIn page for us, ChangeBridge. That is where we announce to the the LinkedIn world what we're doing as well. Right now, those are the two main areas that we're doing it at, along with doing this conference here. We've also we also participated in the ACMP Texas conference that just happened last month. Doing this now, and then we have another presentation with them in November, and talking about design thinking within change management. So we're doing quite a few things as far as giving the change practitioners, the talent professionals out there, information and knowledge and awareness of, hey, these are things that are changing within the business world, right?
Well, thank you so much, Manuel. It's been a pleasure having you. I've learned so much. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yep. I'm looking forward and excited to present to ATD Houston this year, and I'm hoping this won't be the last time I'll be able to do that.
I hope not either. All right. Thank you so much again.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.